So it's additionally odd when Americans are like, lol, they're going to find out why we don't have healthcare. And it's like, bro, you really think that's chill? You just said it's cool that you don't have healthcare because America gets the aid and abet in genocide.
It is a grave and deeply serious moment and a significant development here. And as MJ said, indications allies involved. I mentioned that emergency cabinet meeting in the darkness of night in London, Rishi Sunak holding, and we do understand now that the UK was part of these strikes. Oren Lieberman joins me now from the Pentagon. And Oren, you're learning about the UK involvement. What more are you learning about these strikes tonight?
We've just learned quite a bit from a U.S. official about the types of targets that were struck here by the U.S., and we've now just learned the U.K. We have also learned that the U.S. strikes came from a variety of different platforms, including, as we've said, fighter jets and Tomahawk missiles, which are land attack missiles launched from the sea. But it's not just surface vessels. It was also submarines that were used in part of this attack, targeting 12 or more than 12, I should say, different sites in Yemen belonging to the Houthis. Those targets included radar sites, as well as storage and launch sites for ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and UAVs. That's significant because it's those three types of weapons that the Houthis have used to target international shipping in the Red Sea, obviously one of the world's most critical waterways. So the U.S. and the U.K. very much trying to send a message here that this needs to stop. We have seen, according to the U.S., 27 times where the Houthis have launched attacks on shipping in the Red Sea. At first, they were trying to target ships that had some sort of connection to Israel, either coming or going from, or part ownership. But according to the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet, which operates in the region, many of the last dozen attacks had no connection at all to Israel. The U.S. feeling compelled, because of the threats to international shipping, to set up Operation Prosperity Guardian and protect shipping in the Red Sea. But that was purely defensive. This obviously goes well beyond that. After multiple warnings to both the Houthis and to Iran, the Houthis.
Wait, what? I thought that was also defensive. I thought America only engages in defensive posturing.
The UK feeling compelled to take action here. So
you
again,
said earlier that this was a bloody nose, a de-escalatory tomahawk,
as well as storage and launch platforms and sites for ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and UAVs, and the U.S. using not just fighter jets, but also surface ships and submarines to carry out what appears to be a broad array of strikes on Houthi targets in Yemen. Aaron.
All right, a broad assault. Oren, thank you very much. And always important to note, 90% of the world's trade goes by ship. And these attacks have gone unanswered now for 3 months until this mass assault, this broad assault that we're talking about happening at this hour. Barak Ravid is our political and global affairs analyst, and retired U.S. Army Major General James Spider Marks also joins me. So, General, here we are, finally, 27 strikes on shipping, many of them U.S. ships targeted. The U.S. now tonight responding, hitting more than a dozen Houthi targets in Yemen. The Houthis, of course, an Iranian-backed militia, Iranian proxy, and coming from the air, coming from under the sea, coming from ships on the sea. Your reaction?
I think it's well overdue. The timing of this is important. The United States has previously been very, very precise in its attack against the Houthis. It's kind of been a tit for tat. This is an escalation, and I think that's appropriate. It's not an expansion. Look, there's proportionality, legal requirements that I think this would exceed, certainly at a minimum, would meet those prescriptions for proportionality. And you have to go after, as Oren has just reported, both the archers as well as the arrows in military terms. Go after the inventory, go after the capabilities, go after the leadership, go after the launch capabilities as well. That's what we're seeing right now. And important, the message needs to be there's no sanctuary for the Houthis where they are in Yemen. The only sanctuary that exists is within the border of Iran. Nobody's going to conduct operations across the border into Iran. But the Houthis need to understand, unacceptable, this needs to be a crushing blow.
Well, that's the crucial question, Barak. Is it a crushing blow? Obviously, there's a statement being made in the fact that there's
Bro, this is literally Israel.
UK is involved, and it's more than a dozen targets, and it's
they're about to be like, the Houthis are using civilian shields, and that's why we had to kill thousands of people in Yemen.
Be received.
Well, it's definitely not a crushing blow. It's a beginning. It's a first step. You don't crush a strong militia like the Houthis with airstrikes on 10 targets around the country. They have a robust military infrastructure all over the countries with vast military capabilities, and they're going to respond. It's pretty clear. They said that they're going to respond. They will do it. And now the question is, how far will they go Will they just attack U.S. vessels in the Red Sea, or are they going to start attacking U.S. forces in the region?
And General, that's the question here. So the statement from the senior member of the Houthis tonight, and this statement came just before we learned the strikes were launched. So there was anticipation that it was going to happen. You know, we knew about the cabinet meeting. We knew it was imminent. And then they happened. The quote, "We will confront America, make it kneel down and burn its battleships and all its bases and everyone who cooperates with it, no matter the cost." Now, of course, there's some bellicosity within that. But what are they really capable of doing?
Yeah, as you said, look, we're not surprised by any of that type of narrative that they would release. What we're seeing right now needs to be the first step in what must become a much larger type of engagement with the Houthis, or we're going to be here forever putting up with this. The planning that goes into these type of operations gets into what's known as an action, reaction, counteraction type scenario. So the United States and its allies that are participating have obviously gone through this. I don't see this as a potential snowballing out of control, or the United States and the UK wouldn't be there. There has to be able to be a very precise, as I've described, an initial crushing blow against the Houthis. And if they go after, and they've already indicated that they're going to go after U.S. forces.
Yes.
And there are other proxies that have gone after U.S. forces. So that's a given. We have to be able to put a lid on that.
The comment was made a moment ago, right, that there wouldn't be a strike within Iran, Barack, but that is the real question here, right? How will Iran react, right? The Houthis are an Iranian proxy. They are Iranian.
I love Aaron Burnett being like, can we attack Iran too, please?
An Iranian proxy, they're definitely Iranian-backed, but it's not clear that they are 100% Iranian-controlled, meaning it's not like an on-off switch that the Iranians can just tell them, okay, now you start shooting and now you stop shooting. Yeah. It's more complicated than that, and you have to add to that that for the Iranians, that's the best-case scenario, that the Houthis and the U.S. will have those skirmishes now, and the Iranians will sit on the sidelines and as if they have nothing to do with it. And obviously, the U.S. tried in recent days to send messages to Iran to stop the Houthis. It didn't happen. And I'm not sure the U.S. is ready at the moment to go after Iran in order to stop it.
All right, please stay with me, both of you. I want to bring in Jason Crow, the Democratic congressman, former Army Ranger, who served in both Iraq and Afghanistan and sits on the Foreign Affairs Committee. So, Congressman, here we are.
I don't get why Axios reporter Barack Ravid is being asked about these questions.
The UK, we understand, against
you know what I mean?
This Iranian-backed militia. What more are you learning about these strikes tonight?
Hi, Aaron. Well, we're paying close attention to this on Capitol Hill. There's really three things going on here. The first is the president has the authority in the...
What's up, bro? Wait, can you hear me? Ludwig is calling. Brother, America is currently attacking Yemen, and you're calling me in the middle of that. I suspect because you're doing a tier list or something. What's going on?
No.
Oh.
I didn't even know about this. Yemen's devastated, for starters. Second off, I was just wondering if you wanted to get dinner Saturday. I didn't even know you were live.
Yeah, I do. All right, bye.
In a White House statement, Biden said that the strikes on Yemen by US and UK military forces with support from Australia, Bahrain, Canada, and Netherlands has been successful in striking multiple Houthi targets in Yemen. But the official spokesperson of Houthi movement has said that there is absolutely no justification for this aggression against Yemen, as there was no threat to international navigation to the Red and Arabian Sea, and the targeting was and will continue to affect Israeli ships or those ships heading to the ports of occupied Palestine. So the Houthis have officially declared that they will not stop targeting ships in the Red Sea. On the other hand, Biden has also declared that he will not hesitate in taking further action in Yemen. If both Biden and Houthis do not back down, then there are chances of further escalation and a wider regional war in the Middle East, as Houthis are backed by Iran.
Or that we don't let this escalate into a broader conflict, so that it's proportional, that it's controlled.
We're watching World War III.
We're looking very closely at what Iran is doing, and we're not creating an escalation here. Number three is Congress's role, making sure that this is a self-defense attack, that we're not being pulled into a broader conflict. I would not support us being pulled into a broader conflict against the Houthis. We should not be doing that. We just ended our nation's longest war. We should not be pulled into another one. So we have an obligation in the weeks ahead to conduct oversight on Capitol Hill.
You know, on the one hand, the Biden administration has been criticized for its tepid response, its lack of response to Houthi attacks, repeated attacks, more than 25 of them, right? 27, I believe, on shipping interests. On the other hand, you have one of the chief operators of the Houthis saying, we will confront America, make it kneel down and burn its battleships tonight, as that statement coming out. Do you, Congressman, take that seriously? Do you think they have the ability to do any sort of an action that would cause?
What, dude, why is Aaron Burnett more serious than the congressperson? By the way, Elent News is right. Barack Ravid actually did provide better analysis than the fucking general did. It's still unique that, you know, you got a goddamn Axios reporter being like, doing commentary here. But like, again, the CNN reporter is always more reactionary than the most reactionary person.
That's why you have clear-eyed, smart, intelligence, national security professionals of the administration making sure that we are smart, that we have a proportionate response, that we are defending ourselves, but we're not escalating either. And that takes calculation, that takes intelligence, that takes the ability to look at the various streams of intelligence and risk that we are facing.
Chatters, many of you always come in here when things are popping off and say, is this a distraction from this other thing? All of you, and just the general Western populations, basically has the attention span of a dog. You could just dangle keys in front of you and you would lose sight of whatever you were thinking about anyway. America doesn't need to start another front of war because of the International Court of Justice trials against Israel. No, they're doing this most likely because of what happened in Oman earlier today. Okay? They've been setting up for a counter against the Houthis, against Ansar Allah for some time now, due to, as Aaron Burnett correctly and I guess vociferously, bloodthirstily brought up, the 27 attacks against commerce interests. So there is no like distraction from one thing or the next. Okay? It is happening because of Israel, because of our endless support for Israel. Okay? That part is true. But the timing of this is suspicious is like my least favorite type of commentary.
A submarine that carried out these strikes. We have learned more about the submarine. It is the USS Florida, a ballistic missile submarine capable of carrying out and firing Tomahawk missiles as well. Those are land attack missiles, and that, according to a U.S. official, is what was used in this attack. What's noteworthy here is that, first, the U.S. rarely talks about where its subs are. They're a very closely held secret. So anytime there's a public statement about them, it is a significant statement. And this is the sub that U.S. Central Command announced had entered the Red Sea from the Suez Canal in early November. So we now have learned that this is the submarine that has been there operating in the Red Sea, perhaps not all of this time, but that was a part of this strike using the Tomahawk missiles that's capable of launching as the U.S. carried out a strike along with the U.K. on more than a dozen or so targets in Yemen.
So sick, our weapons,
now, too, we learn about the operations of a U.S. submarine as it relates to this very significant moment and this significant attack, Aaron.
Oren, thank you very much. And Barack Ravid, Major General Spider Marks are back with me in this significant moment with a significant attack, as Oren describes it, General. We've now learned that the USS Florida, that is the sub that was responsible for launching some of these Tomahawks. When you hear that and then releasing this information, sharing this information, saying the name of the vessel, what do you take away from it?
Well, attack subs, you have different manner of submarines. You've got boomers, those that are going to launch your ICBMs, your nuke capability. The Navy's never going to let you know where those babies are. The attack submarines, on the other hand, make themselves known. This is a very specific announcement by the Department of Defense saying we have capabilities, look at what they can do, very precise attack, and we're going to do some very significant bomb damage assessment in terms of what the damage was against the target. Was there any collateral damage as a result of that? And they'll alter their attack platform accordingly. This makes perfect sense when you look at all the array of capabilities that the DoD has available. They will use everything in their kit bag to make sure this happens.
And Barack, what's your understanding about the length of lead time they would have had to plan the time of this? And I say that in the context of, we know the UK is involved. We know there was a cabinet meeting, emergency all cabinet meeting a few hours ago in London, led by Prime Minister Sunak, but that this was done in coordination, right? There were so many targets. What's your understanding about what went into it in terms of planning and how long they knew that they were going to do this at this time on this day?
I think this strike was planned for at least 2 to 3 weeks. I think the White House was very hesitant when the Pentagon first brought the initial plans for a military retaliation to what the Houthis have been doing since mid-November. And U.S. officials told me in recent days that what was important to the White House was first to try and mobilize some sort of an international coalition so that it won't be seen as the U.S. going at it alone, or even the U.S. and the U.K. And behind the U.S. and U.K. strike are at least 24 other countries that are involved in this task force in the Red Sea and that signed.
I predict by the end of this week, there will be a not insignificant coalition of Globe Twitter that unironically whitewashes the genocide in Yemen in the hands of Saudi Arabia and justifies it as they learn about what it is, really, because they didn't know what it was already. Yeah, Globe Twitter. You will see think tank Andes, like that one Syrian guy who works for the American Enterprise Institute, and all of the other dudes with like globes in their profiles, and people who fancy themselves to be like sock thems and whatnot, totally go back and play the Saudi Arabia's actions in Yemen story in a way that unironically says, yeah, it was actually good that they did that. Okay, European Union flag, yeah. Oftentimes it's like it's always like some Slav dude too. It's always like it's always one of those like European Union countries that gets like dunked on by the rest of the EU. You know what I mean? Always an Eastern European guy with the most genocidal opinions, defending and riding people who think he's a dog historically. You know what I mean?
Their intentions very, very clear. Nor should we be surprised by any declaration by the Houthis or by Iran, which means Israel now is at greater risk. I mean, this isn't a black swan event. This is a white swan swimming in a pond of white swans. This is totally predictable. Yeah. This needs to be done, and we understand the cost.
Barak, I want to play for you some video that we just had in of one of these strikes.
Bro.
Well, we're going to get it in a moment. I'll explain what it is. When we get it, I'll play it. But we do have video coming in of a strike, Barak, north of Sana'a, of course, the capital of the Sana'a, Yemen, in the Sana'a province. So we're going to show that as soon as we get it. But that will show, here it is. So you go ahead and watch this, Barak, show that we actually have video of these.
Yeah, people are going to find out that the Houthis logo says like curse the Jews, and then they're going to repeat that too. They're going to be like, it's anti-Semitic. Why are you defending anti-Semitism? I knew the left had a real problem with anti-Semitism. I didn't know how bad it was. Clip it. You'll see. Every single person is going to literally run these talking points in the next week. They do not know any of these things right now because they do not have a well-formed, informed opinion on the situation at all. You know, they're just learning about all of this now so they can hit you with talking points.
And you hear the dogs.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think what we'll have to see is how this looks in the morning. Meaning when the sun comes up, we'll be able to see exactly what was hit, how big is the damage, and we will also know if there are any casualties among the Houthis. Just last week, the U.S. helicopters fired at some small boats that the Houthis sent to try and kidnap a commercial ship. 10 Houthi rebels were killed. And the interesting question to me is whether the U.S. did this airstrikes on targets that had Houthi militants in them, or it was just empty targets that only had weapon caches or missile positions. And I think this is a big question, because this will determine
civilians.
What will be the Houthi response to this.
General Marks, what do you see in this video that we have taken from the ground in the distance, looking at, it's hard to say, right? It's multiple plumes of fire, looks like multiple explosions lighting up the sky. But what do you see when you watch this?
Yeah, to Barak's comment, that looks like these are secondary explosions. That's significant. Frankly, if there aren't any Houthi fighters co-located with where those ammunition depots might be, or some of their capabilities might be located, I'm okay with that. Let's get rid of all of their inventory so that they have a much diluted capacity.
I'm sorry, but like, that's a whole different country, man. Like, is it okay if people start blowing up like random parts of America because there's ammo depots there? Like, what are we talking about? You can't do that. Like, you're America, okay? You are the United States of America. You're like 8,000 miles away from this area, and you've decided, like, I'm going to blow up your weapons depot. Like, this makes no sense. Just did it, Bubba. I know it makes a lot of people's dicks hard to think, like, oh, they're doing this and we're showing our might towards a population of people that we had been doing we had been genociding, basically, and not directly genociding, indirectly genociding with a regional proxy. Like, we outsourced our genocide of the Yemeni population to Saudi Arabia, okay? But it blows my mind. Like, it blows my mind that, like, Americans champion this kind of thing. You get no benefits from this, dog. They're not even doing this for your security. They're doing this to flex for Israel, basically. So it's additionally odd when Americans are like, lol, they're going to find out why we don't have healthcare. And it's like, bro, you really think that's chill? You just said it's cool that you don't have healthcare because America gets to aid and abet in genocide. Like, you think that's fun? You think that's a good thing? You just basically posted your L publicly. You are no different than, like, the dumbass hogs that we make fun of every day.
In the United States, many Republican leaders like Mitch McConnell have reacted to this news by saying that this was long overdue and that Biden has been very slow in taking actions against Houthi rebels. But on the Democratic side, some leaders have criticized Biden's actions. Ro Khanna and Rashida Tlaib criticized Biden by saying that he violated Article 1 of the US Constitution, which requires Biden to come to Congress before launching a strike. Mark Pocan said that the United States cannot risk getting into another conflict without congressional authorization. Many people are pointing to this tweet from Joe Biden in 2020 and are calling him a hypocrite for not taking congressional approval before taking actions in Yemen. Among the Arab states, only Bahrain has supported these strikes by US and UK. Probably because many people in the Arab world see Houthis as a protector of Palestinians. Israel has been accused of committing a genocide against Palestinians by South Africa at the International Court of Justice. There are a lot of other countries who have supported South Africa's case against Israel, like Malaysia, Turkey, Jordan, Bolivia, Maldives, Namibia, Pakistan, the Arab League, Colombia, Brazil. And the Organization of Islamic Countries, which has 57 countries in it, has also backed South Africa's case at the International Court of Justice. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to hit the like button. I will upload more videos like this. And thanks for watching.